if you're not being relevant or in context, then yes, you are in trouble with the Redfins of the world or the Zillows. If you are just a transactional person and you're not in flow with the person that you're helping, then yes, I think that you might be in trouble.
You are listening to the Real Estate Sessions with Bill Risser of Fidelity National Title, Tampa District. The Real Estate Sessions podcast is part of the Industry Syndicate Media Network. For additional real estate podcasts, check out industrysyndicate.com. Now, your host, Bill Risser.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 196 of the Real Estate Sessions podcast. As I always say, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for telling a friend. That's how we continue to grow, and it just kind of makes it fun for me to be able to talk to more and more people and bring to them very interesting people in our space. And today is no exception. My talent finders out in Portland, Wendy Thatcher with Chicago Title, sent me the information on today's guest. And the guest's name is Shelley Zavitz. Shelley is with Hasson Company Realtors. She's been an agent for, I think, roughly 4 years, and she's also an author. And I had the opportunity to read her book. I'm going to tell you right now, I opened it on a Saturday afternoon, and I was done with it by Saturday night. It's a fantastic read. It's called Your First 365 Days in Real Estate, How to Build a Successful Real Estate Business Starting with Nothing. And it was fascinating. Shelley's a wonderful storyteller. She has a great story to tell. That's a great combination. Shelley, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for being on. Like I said, the book's amazing. It just came out, right? Didn't it just get released recently?
Yeah, we released it June 3rd. It's published by the Harriman House. So kudos to them. Thank you so much for your help on this. We will have an audible version of it. It was supposed to be released for Monday, but we are just in delay while they format. So it should be any time now, but we will have an audible version of it shortly.
Excellent. You live in Portland. You're a realtor there in Portland, but you had a life before that. And the thing I love about doing this podcast is finding out what people did before real estate, because there are so many different jobs and things that people have come through. Let's start with the beginning for you, though. You are we've had quite a few Canadians on the show. So you are also someone who was
Nice.
Born in Canada. Yeah. So, and you haven't said A yet once since I've talked to you. So that's interesting.
No, when I worked in radio, they encourage you to shed most of your accent if you can. So it was trained out of me nice and early.
Where in Canada did you grow up?
I grew up in southwestern Ontario, near London, Ontario, but it was a super small town. I grew up on a gravel road in Denfield. It was a mostly farming community surrounded by people who just worked really hard, and they were big on community, and I loved it there, but it was really, really flat. I used to make a joke. You could watch your dog run away for 3 straight days. It was just so flat and farmland. And then I moved up. I went to school in Hamilton, Ontario, and I got my first job up there. My first job was actually in Oakville, Ontario, CHWO, and it was a 55-plus radio station. And I was 20, and I was a junior copywriter. So the first commercials I was writing was like funeral commercials, pet food commercials, how to age in place, stuff like that. So,
so you come out of school, you go right into radio. That's going to be your thing. Was that something you were thinking about while you were in high school? Was that going to be your path?
No, when I was in high school, I was going to be the first woman in the NBA. So, and then I had a few thousand surgeries on my knees, and that didn't work out. So I went into advertising school, and I thought I was going to work for an ad agency. I was going to be a writer, and then that just didn't work out. My first gig was in radio, and I found out that I loved it. I loved writing imagery for radio. Like television, you kind of have your site to help you along with the message. With radio, you have to provide it all through sound, So I loved it there. I had the best boss. He was just a really good teacher. He wasn't afraid to share what he knew. And I'm so grateful to him because I'm the writer I am today because of him. His name's Paul Stringer.
Wow.
By far the best guy ever. And he was, like I said, he was selfless. So my first year, we wrote this ad campaign and it won an award. It was a national award in Canada. A Crystal Award is what they call it. And I was just blown away that he would even take me on that journey with him. So then
wow.
I had the itch. I had to stay in it, you know.
I was going to say that all of a sudden you're in the business for years after that, which is great. You stayed in Hamilton, Toronto area for a while, but then somewhere along the road, you relocated over to British Columbia, right?
Yeah, I moved to Vancouver. I had this idea that I wanted to be a creative director, and I was way too young to manage people, but I didn't really understand that at the time. And I just packed up everything into 2 hockey bags, just to throw in something Canadian there. And I hauled everything over to Vancouver, and I started a job at The Beat, which was an urban radio station that had just launched. And it didn't take me long. I did end up being creative director there, and I was just in charge of other people being creative. And I couldn't think of anything better than that. You just get to be around people who want to create things. It's just exciting. When you're in your 20s, woo, let's do that.
Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of it, right? Because you're not jaded by 2 decades in the business and you just think things have to be a certain way. You definitely had to be a breath of fresh air coming into that world, kind of with the skill set you had.
Yeah. And back then, radio was about creativity. Unfortunately, now it's a bit more about accounting, but that's okay. Before, it was just like, how great can we make it? How interesting can we be? How edgy could we be, depending on what station you're working on? Like if it was a rock station, you want to be edgy or whatever. But right. What I was learning while I was doing that was, what is a brand? Because you can't, if you're working for a radio station that say is rock, you have to be rock all the time. Otherwise your listener can't relate to you, right?
Right.
Even if that's what you personally aren't interested in. So I was really learning what things made up a brand that whole time, and it's such a gift because now that I'm in real estate, I'm able to apply all those things that I learned. I'm blessed for sure that I had that lesson really, really early. So.
Yeah, let's continue down that path. So somewhere we've got to get you in Portland, and you've got to start working for a real estate company. So what's that story?
I kind of hit the top of what I thought I was going to do in radio. I had helped launch 2 radio stations, one in Whistler FM, one in Vancouver, BC. And I really wanted to be in programming, and then kind of got to the end of that. There wasn't really that much further that I was interested in going. And then I had a personal life change, and I was being drawn down to the United States. So as I came down into Portland, I was like, well, what do I want to do? If it's not radio, what's the other thing that I'm good at? And while I was in Vancouver, I was always investing with a partner. I was investing in condos that we would kind of remodel, like basic stuff. And then we would either hold it or sell. And I got an itch for it. Like, it was so much fun. And at the time, it was around 2006, the Vancouver market was just blowing up, right? So life was good. You couldn't really make a mistake, to be honest with you. Now it's not that way, but at the time, and I was young enough, I was still in my 20s, I would have recovered from it. But, I was completely solid by the time the 2008 crash happened. So I was extremely lucky throughout all of that. So then when I got down to Portland and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, I said, look, my other passion is homes and helping people buy good homes. I could do that. And I didn't really realize what that meant, really, because I didn't know a lot of realtors. I just had this really great idea that I was going to buy and sell homes like every other new agent. Like, no problem. So I ended up here, and I talked to a friend of mine. It was like one of 4 people that I knew in town. They're like, oh yeah, you'll be great. I would trust you here. Why don't you talk to our agent? And then I talked to their agent, and then I started talking to different brokerages. And then next thing I know, I'm enrolled in classes, and it was just kind of a snowball after that. kind of got out of control.
Wow. Well, you recap that first year incredibly well in the book. And before I get to that, because I'm going to ask you a lot of questions about the book, I'm just so intrigued with some of the thoughts you have in there. But with that copywriting background, I always think that people that are going to write books just know they're going to do it. Was that a part of you well before the idea for the book came? Did you always know it was in you somewhere down the road?
Well, my grandmother is an author. Her name's Ruth Zavitz. Great books if you want to buy them.
Okay.
She was kind of just an inspiration for me throughout most of my life. Like, she's an amazing writer. And I kind of felt like she gave me some of that, and anytime I would talk to her when I was in Vancouver and I would talk to her on the phone or by email, she would say, I would tell her what's going on. She said, okay, fine, but are you writing? And I was like, yeah, I'm writing copy. I'm doing this and doing this. And she'd be like, no, are you writing for you? So she kind of always kept me on track a little bit, but the story wasn't in me yet. And I really feel that when it comes to things like this, stories just arrive as they should. And like, I wrote this book in 8 days because I was in the shower and I was reflecting on my rookie years. And I was like, man, I wish that I knew this and this and this and this and this. And then I thought, well, why don't I just write it down? And then it went from, a couple cue cards to I was getting up at 4:30 in the morning and I wrote till 9 every morning for 8 days. And I was like, I just need to get it out. And this will just be the first draft. And it just shot out of me, So I don't know why that happened, but it just did. And I gave it to my mentor, my visionary, and my coach. And I said, what do you think of this first chapter? And they were like, you have to keep going. This is hilarious. Like, oh, good. Glad you're entertained.
Let's talk about that first chapter, because I actually read the first page to my wife, who just looked at me and said, I'll see you when you're done. Because she knew I wasn't going to stop reading. And I don't want to give everything away, but you talk about the onboarding expectations, your specific onboarding expectations of the industry had me just rolling. And so do you mind kind of sharing just a bit of that story about how how that first day went and some of the things, that you were expecting that didn't quite work out?
Yeah, I was completely naive is what I would call that. I was afraid of taking the exams, and I had gotten through it on my first shot, and I was so excited, and I dressed up in what I thought were my best clothes, and I went to the office, and I was like, everybody's going to know what just happened to me, and we're all going to celebrate. But then when I got to the office, it wasn't that way at all. I was kind of just shown to my desk, and they're like, you're going to share with these other 2 people, and hopefully you make it later, kid, And I was like, whoa, wait.
Where's the reception
now what do
line?
I do? Yeah. I was like, come on. I thought that I would have conversations with people and they'd be super excited. But what I didn't realize was I was probably one of 10 agents that might not make it the next 6 months. And they don't want to invest in me. Other agents don't want to invest in me until they know that I actually have the chops. I'm going to stay because it recycles so quickly. Right. And I didn't realize that the first day. So then these guys that I had met at the new agent meeting came into the office, and I was like, okay, perfect. Now these guys are here and they're going to tell me what I'm supposed to do now. And we talked for about 5 minutes, and then they left. And I was like, oh no, what do I do? And I was like, okay, well, I don't know Portland, so maybe I should learn the neighborhoods. And I kind of gave myself some things to do, but it was terrible. I went home the first day and I was like, I don't know if I can do this, which I'm sure a lot of people feel.
You are so on your own in that world. And I've been in the business 20 years from the title side, but just watch that that's just the way it works. And it's the unique, I guess, little boutique brokerage that can change that. And you're seeing more of that, I think, as time goes on, but boy, that's just the norm. You mentioned earlier that your database was 4 people when you moved to Portland. And that has got to be just horrifying as an agent, because that's usually where people start in the business, is their sphere. So I think you talk about in the book that you knew right away that had to change.
I had no idea. Because my background wasn't in sales, it was in business, right? So I have a ton of skills in creating, launching businesses, not a lot of skills in sales. So I was like, well, I think I was at the new agent meeting and they were teaching us CRM. They're like, okay, you're going to take your database and you're going to put it in your CRM, and then we're going to teach you how to do consistent touches with newsletters and et cetera. So why don't you guys all just put in your database? And I'm looking around the room. It took me 2 minutes. There's 4 people. Like, what am I going to do? So, and I started to freak out because I realized, okay, well, if I'm going to build a referral business, I need people who want to know me. So how am I going to get people to know me? And one of the traits that I have is that I'm a little bit shy sometimes. I'm not really, like, you would never see me at the party being the life of the party. I'm just not that person. And so to get over that shyness, I made it a game. And I was like, okay, well, I need to meet, and I made out the parameters. Like, say it was like, okay, this week I'm going to meet 8 people. I have to have 2 face-to-face meetings with them, and it can't be just, something quick or in a group. Like, if they want to know, or if I need them to get to know me, then we need to be one-on-one, because that's where I'm best. And so I made it into a game, and I was slowly growing the database. And it actually happened a lot faster that way, I felt anyways. I don't know what's normal, but it happened very quickly because the more that people got to know me, and I never really talked about real estate. I just talked to them about what I'm passionate about. Like, there was never a sell there ever. It was just like, I want to know you. Let's do this. And I started inviting people to my house, and then I was invited to their house, and we just started to grow into a community. And the more that people got to know me, they got to know what my truth was. And I think that's the most important thing when you're building your database. It's not about getting somebody to buy or sell a house with you. It's getting them to know what you care about. And one of the things that I care about is them. So.
Yeah, it's that finding your tribe, right? And then once you're building that thing, is keep loving on them, and that's going to create just this snowball effect. We talk about it a lot, but so many people struggle with that concept.
Yeah, and I don't know why. I mean, I've talked to agents where they say, I never work with friends and family, and I just don't understand why that would be. And I don't know if it's because they're uncomfortable or worried about losing their connection with them. But if anything, you're taking somebody through like one of the most important experiences of their lifetime financially. Why wouldn't they want to be with somebody they trust? I just don't understand that. I love on my people like crazy. So, yeah. And they matter so much to me. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
It really looks like the book is built for a new agent. But as I'm reading through there and know what realtors can be like, or things they're struggling with, there's incredible information in there for experienced agents as well. And so I want to find out how you kind of gather that information. And for me, it seems like, because you talked about your coach and your mentor and your visionary, your accountability partner, talk about how those people were really critical in you really, I think, being beyond your years in the business for somebody in their first year.
Well, let me start with who those people were to me.
Sure.
So the coach is your biggest fan. Okay. You're going to hire in somebody who's always in your corner, 100% support. You could be setting the entire world on fire and they're like, don't worry, we'll figure it out. So that's the coach. The mentor is the person that's running the business that you're going to run later. They are already at the horizon you're looking at. And you're just watching and doing everything they're doing because you're going to eventually build what they have built already. The visionary is somebody you might not interact with maybe at all. They have eyes for the future. They are the people that are kind of pushing our industry to be better. They're designing best practices. And the accountability partner, which isn't a new thing for anybody, the accountability partner is the person that's in the trenches with you. They are looking at the same problems They have similar goals. Like, you don't want an accountability partner that's looking to build a team when you're still just trying to get a few deals a year, So try and find somebody that can relate to the things that are going on. And then I would say that as I was listening to people, I guess that's really what it is. Every time somebody said anything, I was like a sponge. And even if I didn't understand totally what they were saying, or if they told me to do something and I couldn't figure out why that was, I just did it anyway, because they know what they're doing. And I just need to embrace the things that are true about the industry that I don't know yet. Coach always told me, she's like, Shelley, you don't know what you don't know. So you're going to figure it out. You're going to be building your craft as you go. But for right now, just stick with me. So I was so fortunate to know these people. At the time, I didn't have names for them or anything. It was, running by the seat of my pants quite a bit. But I would have to say also, for all four of those people, well, the three, especially the mentor, visionary, and the coach, none of them had to help me. They didn't get anything from it. They literally were running these amazing businesses, and they all turned around to help the rookie come up. And I would say that, I don't think that's normal. And I have so much gratitude that they even invested the time that they did in me. I am not who I am. I don't have the business that I have. I don't have this book without them. So I think it's worth saying, you don't get anywhere alone. So those guys are so important to this. So.
Are you paying it forward?
Well, I would like to say that this book is what that is.
Yeah.
The president of my company used to, not as much anymore, but when I was in my third year, she would say, can you meet with so-and-so? They're kind of struggling. Can you just have coffee with them? Can you talk to them about your experience? Can you help them at all? They're looking to quit. Can you help them? And it was just meeting after meeting like that, and trying to inspire somebody, because I don't have all the knowledge, but I do have the you can do this mentality. Just do this, and this week, and then next week we'll deal with next week. You know what I mean? Right. So I was meeting with these people consistently, and then my business got busy, so I couldn't do both. So the book hopefully is, because I was saying a lot of the stuff that's in the book to these people, maybe not perfectly, but it was a lot of the same stuff. So my hope is that this is my turnaround to them. I'm not that far in the business, but look, you can make it. Your next deal is so close. Just keep going with this skill or this idea, or implement this into your business. So hopefully It helps. And that's the plan anyways.
You talk about, mindset and the scarcity versus abundance type of thinking that's out there in this, especially in real estate. And I think I'm like you. I'm more skeptical about that. And I think at the beginning you were too. So can you talk about how that worked for you?
Yeah. No, I wasn't on board at all. Okay. I picked up my first law of attraction book when I was still in radio, and someone had suggested it to me, and I was like, law of attraction. So like attracts like, huh? And I'm like, woo woo. No, I don't. There's no way that this is ridiculous. And then I was at the point in my career that I was at a roadblock that I couldn't get past. So I started doing the exercises in the book. It's called Harmonic Wealth, if you're into it. And I started doing the exercises, and then I started to see change. And I was like, oh. So then I went all in, and I did the vision boards, and I did it all. And a lot of the things that I was asking for came to fruition. So now I'm all aboard. And I often tell people, if you don't know about quantum physics or the law of attraction, just start there. Just read a chapter about it, learn what it is. And your mindset and what you think about, you bring about, that is 100% true. And even if you don't want to get involved in the energy part of all this, if you just think about it, if you show up at an open house and you're upset because the kids were late to school and you're bringing that energy into an open house, well, you're going to get back well, that person's in a bad mood. Like, people feel things on people. But if you show up to an open house feeling energetic, like you want to help somebody and you're there to be all in, people feel that from you. So even if you don't believe in the energy part of it, at least believe in that, because that is true. How you show up matters.
You're approaching 4 years now. So this book covered your first year, I think was 2015, somewhere in that range. Is there a part two to your first 365 days in real estate?
I don't know. One of the reasons I don't know is this is a bit of a tester book, because so you've read it. It's kind of a hybrid between autobiography that I'm trying to entertain you and factual stuff about business. So I wasn't really sure if that hybrid would be received well, because that's how I write. I can't write something dry. And also I can't write something that doesn't have any substance or anything for you to take away from. So I'm kind of test driving this book. I do have an outline for another book that's in the finance real estate sector, but I'm kind of just going to see what happens, because this is my first book. So I'm not really sure how it will be received. Some people might be like, this is not my jam. It's hard to know. So I don't know if you've read a lot of books that are hybrid like that or how they do, but this is kind of a tester. And then if it works out, I absolutely would write another book.
I've got 3 books that I recommend to people right now. One of them is yours. The other one is Joe Rand.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Joe Rand, How to Be a Great Real Estate Agent, is a fantastic book, much in the same vein as yours. Storytelling.
Okay.
If you haven't read that one, that's a great book. And then there's Rehumanize Your Business, which are the guys at BombBomb. And it's really just talking about video. And I am a huge believer in the one-on-one video more than the masses. But anyways, so yeah, I think I'm wishing you huge success on the book, because I think, well, I know I'll be helping you sell a few copies. I'm just telling you that. So let me ask you this question. There's a whole lot of stuff happening in our world, and I'm sure it's happening in Portland as well, with the disruption. I know it's a buzzword, but the iBuyers and Zillow Instant Offers and big brands becoming iBuyers as well. Are you worried about that at all, or for you, is your tribe going to pull you through those sorts of things?
Well, I hate to take you back to radio, but I am going to do that for a second.
Sure.
So the threat was first in radio for me. This is my second time around with the disruptors, and it was the iPod. And they said the iPod is going to kill radio. And there was all these reasons why we should just get out of the industry now, because there was no way we were going to make any money. And the last time I checked, the radio industry is still reporting profit, and they're still on the stock exchange. And the reason is because you can download a whole bunch of songs, but then you have to organize them. Then you have to do all this stuff to make it the experience that you want, because, music is a mood. So if I was translating that, in my opinion, to real estate, if you're not being relevant or in context, then yes, you are in trouble with the Redfins of the world or the Zillows. If you are just a transactional person and you're not in flow with the person that you're helping, then yes, I think that you might be in trouble. But if I think of all the things that I do for my clients, and I think of all of the experiences and warnings that I give them, I make this joke all the time. I walk my clients out of more houses than I walk them into, because I'm going to be the first to tell them the things to be wary of. It's true, they can push a button, get a showing, but with me, they get knowledge. They get a different type of experience they would get from anybody else. So if I was giving advice to other realtors, I would make a list right now of all the things that you do that is better or provides value higher than me pushing a button on a computer, and then that's what we're selling. That's where our value is.
That's awesome. Brilliant answer. Well, Shelley, this has really been amazing for me. I could talk to you for hours. I'm not kidding, but I've got to get you back to work. It's still the morning where you're at in Portland as we record this.
Very true.
So I'll wrap this up with the same question that I've asked every guest since guest 1. And this is interesting because I'm going to try to give one piece of advice, but what's one piece of advice you'd give a new agent just getting started?
That's hard because I wrote 12 chapters on that.
Exactly.
One piece of advice would be to think, act, and be a business. You're dealing with one of the biggest investments in someone's life. You can't do that casually. You need to be a professional, dress the part, and conduct yourself like a business. Because if you act like that, our entire industry is lifted. If we just go willy-nilly and show up in jeans and like we don't really care, then yeah, Redfin or those Zillows or like it just reduces what we do. So if I could do or spread anything to anybody would be let's lift the level of business that we're doing and act like we are in one.
Shelley, if somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, there's a website called newrealtor365.com, and I am blogging on that. I send out a blog every Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So you could sign up for that, and basically it's an exercise every Monday that you have to do throughout the week. You can also find us on Instagram. It's newrealtor365 is the handle. And my email is shelley@hasson.com if you just want to chat. Yeah, that's the way to go.
And there's some other resources on that website, right? Because you actually show some of the tools you created or used in that first year, right?
Yes. So in the resource section, you can download. I actually put it up there as well because the Audible version, obviously, you don't have those sheets. So you can just download them from there. And awesome. Yeah, again, if you want the Audible version, my good friend and narrator, Natalie Stanfield, she was the voiceover and she was hilarious. She just nailed it. So I'm looking forward to people hearing it. She just did such a great job. So.
That's great. Shelley, I can't thank you enough for your time. Really continued success. I really hope I get to read more of your books. You are a fantastic writer, and you need to be sharing more of that with the world.
Thank you so much. I'm so pleased to be here.